Hey everyone, Dr. Frunkey here with a review and final diagnosis on the Jason Guthrie Scout. This has been a long time coming because I've had this knife for a couple of months, so I feel like I can give you a really solid review of it now. First, I wanted to say thank you to my good buddy Nico for allowing me to have his Scout with me this whole time. I've had it for way too long. This is a beautiful example in Damasteel, marbled carbon fiber, and a Mokutai clip, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But this knife has been really, really nice, and I have enjoyed carrying it. So let's go ahead and get some specs on this knife before we get into all that. Up front is a 3.25-inch blade with about 3.1 inches of effective cutting length, 7.5 inches of overall length, with a 4.25-inch handle and a 4-inch grip area. The blade stock is going to be coming in here at 128 thousandths, so a nice user-friendly blade thickness. And then the handle is coming in at 0.53 inches, so a little bit bigger than the standard 1/2 inch, but the contouring makes it feel smaller in hand than you think, and we'll talk about that as well. Let's go ahead and bring out another couple of well-known knives for a size comparison. Here's a Spyderco Paramilitary 2 and a Para 3. I think these two knives are very relevant size comparisons because it shows the EDC size of the Scout here. The Scout is actually based on a larger model that was Jason's first folding knife called the Ranger. That was a 4-inch blade, so his fans asked him to do a more EDC-friendly knife, and then we got the Scout. And it comes in at a very, very nice size. It's much closer to the Para 3 in overall size, and so that makes it very easy to pocket. Not only is it small, but it's also quite light. With this full carbon fiber front scale, mine comes in at 3 ounces. He also offers this with a titanium and Damascus scale. Those will be a little bit heavier, obviously. So let's go ahead and break this knife down anatomically. Up front is a Wharncliffe blade done in M390 steel. This is a very unique blade shape, and I knew that I had to have it. This is a very characteristic shape that Jason himself only does. He also has a drop point blade shape, but I wanted his characteristic shape right here, and I really like it. From a functional and everyday use standpoint, it's also excellent. It's got enough of a tip so that you can achieve some stabbing cuts. It's got a full flat grind, so it's very, very easy. It's very, very sharp, I should say, and very, very easy to pass through material. It's got a relatively thin blade stock compared to a lot of overbuilt knives nowadays, so it functions very, very nicely. It's finished in this gorgeous satin finish. It's a hand-rubbed satin. Let me see if I can get the dust off of there here. He does a hand-rubbed satin, and it is stunningly beautiful. Something I really enjoy are the facets here on the harpoon swedge as it transitions out to the tip. Those facets are even more accentuated on his Damasteel blade. So he offers that M390 like I just showed you, but he also offers different Damasteel patterns. This is rose Damasteel. It's got these tight little rosettes that are absolutely stunning to look at. He's done a very perfect etch on this where there's a high contrast between the darker steel and the lighter steel. Something I really enjoy towards the bottom here are the straight lines as it goes out towards the edge right there. And again, those facets up here on the top of the blade are not etched, and so they're even more prominent on this Damasteel style blade. It has a nice sharpening choil, so if you're going to resharpen it, it's going to work. Again, sort of talking about the no-nonsense nature of this knife, he really intended this to be an EDC knife. He didn't ever intend for this to be a heavy-duty knife, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, but it certainly is a usable and a maintainable knife, and he definitely kept that in mind the whole way through. The deployment is through this unilateral thumb stud. There's only one side. He does make left-handed models, so if you're a lefty, go ahead and ask him to do a left-handed model, and he will for you if that's what you want. Moving back to the pivot here, this runs on Teflon washers. Now, before you start going crazy, oh, why does any custom knife run on Teflon? Jason has given me the best explanation for this of anybody ever. I said, actually, when I ordered the knife, I said, hey, what do you think about throwing phosphor bronze washers in there, being as silly as I am? And he said, you know, I really prefer Teflon. Teflon actually has a very good sort of lateral strength. And it's not going to wear down. But most importantly, it's got a lower coefficient of drag. He quoted me numbers like 0.05 and 0.18 as the coefficient of drags between Teflon and phosphor bronze. And so he wanted to have a smooth, very, very easy to use knife that was also strong. He didn't want to use ball bearings. A lot of folks have asked me, how does this knife compare to, say, something like a Grimsmo Norseman? Now, any ball bearing pivot that's tuned properly, I should say, is going to be smoother than even the best tuned washer pivot. That also carries over onto other South African knives like this Gareth Bull Shamwari. The drop shuttiness of a ball bearing pivot can and will be smoother than a washer pivot always. But what he's achieved here is a very unique and very, I call it, oily and almost hydraulic opening and closing feeling. It is a consistent amount of resistance. It's not as smooth as a ball bearing pivot, but it's quite nice, and I really enjoy it. It's a unique thing. The handle, the blade is unique, the pivot is unique, and now we can talk about how this handle is unique. This is a very, very nice handle. To be honest, I've done some drawings of some knives, thinking about what I want in an ergonomic handle, and basically this is it. This has everything that I want in a handle, and that is, it's got an area for my thumb to rest. It's a very nice little divot right here. Reminds me a lot of the 0392/Hinderer clips. I've always enjoyed that little area where the thumb rests on those knives. This one has it as well. This has an exaggerated cutout that angulates backwards. That's very comfortable for the hand there. I actually complained about that in my North Arm Knives Skaha video, where this was not really contoured in that way that I wanted. And then it curves downward towards the back here, so it's super, super comfortable. Not only that, the scales here are contoured on both the front and the back. That's an important thing for me to mention here, that he does all of the finish work himself. This is not done by CNC. He cuts these things out and then he hand contours every single piece. He makes all these different pieces, the stop pins, the standoffs, the clips, the blades. He grinds the blades himself, all in his own shop. So it's important for you to be aware of the amount of hand work that went into this knife. Really and truly a hand-built custom knife right here. Now I can't go much farther without talking about this beautiful material, this copper shred carbon fiber. It is a stunning material that I am in love with. Every time I post a picture of this knife on Instagram, everyone goes crazy. Not only is this handle comfortable, but it's so incredibly beautiful that I enjoy carrying this. It is a first and second kind of cool, as nothing fancy would call it. Another thing that I sort of like and sort of dislike, I like that the lock bar cutout is cut into the inside of the handle. Something I don't really like is how thin that lock bar becomes. It is a very robust lock bar, but to have it just be that thin at that point, you know, again, this is not a hard use knife, and so it's never going to be used hard enough to bring that into question. That's just something that I noticed. Another thing that is cool and not cool at the same time is the Guthrie tungsten insert. It's more cool than not cool because it is a hardened piece of tungsten carbide that provides a very rigid lock interface. He provides some educational material with the knife that explains that a hard lock interface will allow for better longevity of the knife, and it won't wear down either the lock bar or the blade as much as a conventional lockup would have. The lock bar tension is very low. The clip here serves as the over travel stop. Speaking of the clip, this is the most wonderful clip in the whole custom knife game. It's got the right amount of ramp, the right amount of spring, and the right amount of height. I have never had an issue with this going in and out of the pocket. That's another area of customization. You can see Nico has this spectacular Mokutai clip on his. This very, very nice spring clip in Mokutai. So what is my final diagnosis on this knife? Well, that's Teflonophilia, because I love this knife and it's taught me to love Teflon washer knives. It's taught me the science of lock bar interface and of pivot science, and I've really enjoyed that. This has a very personal touch with this copper shred carbon fiber, and this one is going to maintain a permanent collection status. I really, really love this knife, so thank you to Jason for making this for me. Check him out at his website and at JG Custom on Instagram. Check me out at Dr. Frunkey. Click like and subscribe, and as always, take care.